Hello, everybody. You're watching WNBA Courtside. It's me, Cyrus, and we are here with the crew. It's the full court press. No, not quite. We're missing our center. Or maybe it's our God. Whoever it is, they're not here. But we're all here. The team is here. We're going to be talking WNBA playoffs, some of the end of season awards. How's everybody doing?
Great.
I mean, you'd expect Nthabiseng to say not so great. She's in Seattle at the moment. Things are looking a bit gloomy there, and not just because it's Seattle, but because things ain't great. So let's get into the end of season awards. Let's start there. A lot of the predictions we made came true. And let's start with the defensive player of the year. I think Lethabo is the one who said she didn't quite feel like this might be the choice. The rest of us were like, it's going Syl's way. So congratulations to Sylvia Fowles. And Lethabo, thoughts?
I still feel like it was probation in lifetime, but fine.
She deserved it, and we know it. All of those say aye.
Uh-huh.
There we go, you see. And we were also pretty much in agreement on Brianna Jones, though I came up with a really ridiculous theory of going back-to-back most improved for Benay Jelani. But, well, my ideas are really clearly stupid, and the WNBA knows what they're doing. Then we've got Coach of the Year, which I think we were all in agreement with. Kurt Miller, Coach of the Year, the Connecticut Sun, the number one seed going into the playoffs. And, you know, he's done a fantastic job. But the big one, the one that was really like we were all firing on the same cylinders, basically pointing the same direction, and that was the MVP, Jonquel Jones. Very well deserved. I mean, we'll give Lethabo a moment to just wax lyrical. She your girl. She your girl.
You know, the thing is, I don't even have to really, because I mean, the stats speak for themselves. The player speaks for herself. I don't need to say nothing, and I said this even like I don't even need to say much. Like, if I'm not gonna argue with nobody, it's no longer words. It would just be violence if it's not. If you don't agree.
But I think your handle speaks for itself.
Yes.
Well done, JJ.
Nah, she did so incredibly well. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of the episode, though. So we're into the WNBA playoffs. The first and second rounds are done, the single elimination rounds, and they were incredible. If we look at who was in, who was been knocked out, you're like, okay, this has been something else. And that game between the Phoenix Mercury and the New York Liberty was closer than any of us expected, but the Mercury went through. You've got the Chicago Sky beating the Dallas Wings. Not so close a game, but it was actually pretty entertaining. The second round is where all havoc actually ensued, with the lower seeds beating the higher seeds. And we'd spoken a little bit about whether or not that rest might actually be an issue. Maybe it was, because those lower seeds who had been playing tough games before came and actually delivered it. Lethabo, I'm going to start with you, and let's look at the Mercury game. Because if we look at I mean, just look at this. How is it that the
Which
fifth
Mercury
seed? Look
game
at
are
that.
we looking at?
Second round.
Okay.
You've got the Mercury taking on the Seattle Storm, and they just absolutely had at them. Though, truth be told, the Seattle Storm were a little hamstrung without the ankle hurt Brianna Stewart, but they came close. They actually ran them really close. Ezi Magbogo was a couple of centimeters away from hitting the game winner in that one. What are your thoughts, Lethabo? Did you think that you saw that kind of result coming? I mean, you're a Mercury fan.
I mean, did I not say that I really thought that Mercury was going to topple? I didn't think that Seattle had enough in the tank for them to go all the way, because I was concerned about Sue Bird. And, I mean, the thing is, I've always said about Joelle Lloyd, it depends which Joelle Lloyd shows up. Now, I will say this, because I had to defend Joelle Lloyd. Y'all made me defend Joelle Lloyd.
But you got to defend Joelle Lloyd.
Because the reason, she's the reason that I do hate the fact that she ran down that clock. Was it only?
There's some ridiculous plays late in the game.
Like, girl, you do not do that when there's a game on the line. You do that when you have 5-game series. You can run down the clock when there's a 5-game series. So she's part of the reason why they lost, but she's also a massive reason why
they came close.
They came close, and that they even stayed in the game. Because if truth be told, that spurt where, like, it was like, what, a 10-0 drought, 21-0 drought? Because, I mean, the thing about Phoenix, when they go through a drought, they go through a drought.
Yeah,
it's like the weather
even
in
at the line. Yeah.
just not like everything just switched off there. But her energy, she brought she's like a Sophie Cunningham. She just brought like a different energy to Seattle, and they kept it going, and they kept on punching. And when Phoenix tried to fight back, they were like, "No, we're still here. Nope, we're not leaving. No, we're not putting our foot off your neck." So, like, my heart stopped at least 15,000 times. I probably need to go to the doctor.
You might need
to. I'm fine. I kept on yelling. I'm probably going to get a noise complaint at the end of the month. So, yeah, it was a good game for the ages. Like, I really am upset that it wasn't a game. This would have been a lovely 3-game series.
A great series, yeah.
I think there was such an evenly matched, well-matched. But you see what happens when you don't have Breonna Stewart around. It's kind of how you saw the difference with Phoenix when they didn't have Taurasi game 1.
Yeah.
And Mama was hobbling. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
There were points where I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, you know that little lion in Lion King when the father's dead? And she's like, Taurasi, wake up. Are you okay? So,
oh my word.
I'm glad
You're pulling out Simba. You're pulling out Simba.
Simba. I haven't watched that movie in God knows how long. So I'm glad that she's so fine. I'm still concerned about that ankle now that it's a 5-game series. But yeah, and Super, one more year. One more year.
I'm with you. One more year. If she can hear us, one more year. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I did that in the dad version.
That's my rant.
But I agree with you. I think most of us will probably agree. And Nthabiseng, I mean, it was a close game. I know Kaunda and I have spoken about the fact that we thought Ezi Magbogo could have been practically, if there was an MVP for the game, she might have been it. She hit a couple of deep 3-pointers. She got some really, really incredible offensive rebounds and almost got in there to score the winning bucket. Is this the end of Nthabiseng? Is this the end of the Seattle that we know? Because there's a lot of people who the contracts are up, and people are looking at what's going to happen in Seattle.
Well, rumors are that there won't be too much shaking in Seattle. So we could still be confident that next year we'll see the same Seattle. As much as...
you got your ear to the ground.
I know that we spoke offline and we were talking about how Jordan Canada might be an outie on this one, but I think she may stay. I don't think there'll be too much shaking in Seattle. We'll see who they get in the draft because that'll be a big one. But I think we'll still see the same Seattle. Whether Seabird stays or goes.
Justice for Candace Dupree. Some things work out for some people, okay? Some things don't. And it's just one of those things. So, Kaunda, let's go across to the other game because that was also a doozy. If you look at the fact that the Minnesota Lynx were literally just shot out of the building by the Chicago Sky. I mean, this Chicago team, and with your girl Candace Parker, are incredibly versatile. And they're able to really pull out victories where sometimes you bet against them. And we just shouldn't. What did you think of that game?
First of all, I'm going to go to Seattle for a second. Because when Izzy Magdebo missed that putback, I swear I heard Nthabiseng say, Modimu. It came out. I swear. I heard it.
I almost lost my finger, guys. Like, I was so hard at the game. I almost lost my finger.
It was so close. It was so close.
It was hard to watch that last.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna rub it in, so I'll go to the Chicago Sky game with the Minnesota Lynx. Look, the Chicago Sky, I think, like I said, they've got Courtney Vandersloot on that team who's a great shooter. They've got Ali Quigley, a great shooter, and then you've got Big Mama Stephanie Dolson. Who's still in there? Sometimes I write her off, but she shows up and I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. And then you've got Diamond DeShields. Diamond DeShields is fast. She's all over the place. And I had to save her for last because she dumped me. CP3, the real CP3, Candace Parker.
How are you going to save CP3 for last when there's one other player you cannot leave off this conversation? Kalia Copper.
Yes.
Kalia Copper.
My bad. Kalia Copper, my bad if you're hearing this. My apologies, but I was just leading on to your de facto flow general nowadays, who is one Candice Parker. I think they've just, like you said, they've got versatility. They've got all the pieces. Sometimes because they're not the flashiest team in the WNBA, you might put them on the back burner and think, okay, Chicago Sky, whatever. But when they get it going, they get it going. You saw, I mean, after watching the game between the Seattle Storm and the Phoenix Mercury, you know, I was on a high, so I was expecting a similar kind of situation on the other end, and then I kind of felt Chicago dictated that entire game.
Yeah.
Like,
Look,
and there was a certain point where
it kind of felt like that. And I think this is the weirdness, because this is also the thing about freshness. And perhaps this is where the calls are getting louder for the second round to be a best of three. Because that, you know, in a way, to look at what the NBA has done with the play-in game, we can allow for the sort of lower seeds to duke it out for one game. But when you're the third seed or the fourth seed, it does feel a little unfair to have worked so hard during the season to just get one shot. And so I kind of get that. It is exciting, but geesh, you're still out there going, okay, maybe they're undercooked. And it looked that way, especially for Minnesota, because they just weren't really in that game. And Nafisa Collier, who I absolutely love, just wasn't able to rise to the occasion. And I mean, just before that, Sylvia Fowles given Defensive Player of the Year, if I remember correctly. And so it's one of those where, you're then asking her to do everything again. And it's just tough. I mean, that Minnesota team has got some really good players. Kayla McBride, I believe, is there. And she's just so good. So, it was a bit of a tough one for me because I like the Lynx. But having said that, the Chicago Sky, a fantastic team, and they're just showing it. So let's go into what's happening in the semifinals. Like, we've had game one already, game two swiftly approaching, and this is what happened in game one. Lethabo, I'm going to go to you first, right? And we're going to start with your particular team, the Phoenix Mercury. Or should I say your particular team, the Connecticut Sun, whichever one of them that is in orange, you're riding with. So let's start with Connecticut, because this is kind of a bit of a shocking result. To score 100 points in any WNBA game is intense. True, it was a double OT game, but then you have to thank somebody for that, and that's this lady right here. Courtney Vandersloot was incredible. Second woman ever to get a triple-double in the WNBA playoffs. What went wrong for the Connecticut Sun, Lee?
Maybe just a little rush, but And I mean, to be fair, in the games that they have lost, I think it could be 3 games in the season, 3 or 2. Out of the 8, I think they lost a total of 8 games total overall. 2 of those were to Chicago, so they're just generally a team that they match up badly with. But I'm not concerned. I'm not pressing the panic button yet. I just think they just need to get the cylinders clicking. Kurt Miller might need to sit, watch game footage overnight, not catch a wink of sleep, and
just
maybe
pour
yell
over
at
that
some
footage.
players, pull them by the neck and be like,
get in this game.
Is the championship on the line. Yeah, get everybody into the heads, because I think, the 2 weeks off might have been, who knows. But I mean, you could say the same thing about Las Vegas, but Las Vegas got the job done. So I don't necessarily know why it wasn't. But I mean, I don't know. I just think it's not cause of concern yet.
Yeah, I get you.
If it's like
you're 2-0 down.
What? Yeah, then
You're in deep trouble.
Yeah. We might need to start blowing up things. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we know you mean that figuratively.
Yes, figuratively.
And Nthabiseng, I look at that game in particular. That result was really surprising because Chicago, but they're dogged. I mean, they really play hard. And, Kalia Copper, yet again, showing up when she needs to, but the centerpiece in all of that is Candice Parker. And, yes, we talked about the homecoming, and sometimes when you have these kinds of things where a player goes home, they don't necessarily deliver. But with Candace Parker, she's built for this. She's built for the postseason, and she really showed it again in that game one. So, Nthabi, do you think that this could be the case of Chicago saying, yeah, we might not necessarily be your favorite, but we can do something, considering Connecticut's history in the playoffs in recent years?
But guys, let's not forget how good Chicago is defensively, right?
Mm-hmm.
They really are good defensively, and you have a lot of experience on that team with Vandersloot, with Ali Quigley, and you have Candace Parker, who has who's got championship rings under her belt. So this is better for her. So she knows what it takes to go to WNBA finals. It's just about the little things that they need to do, and if they keep doing the little things in those games, there's a potential to beat Connecticut. Connecticut is not a bad team at all. We've seen it. They're the
number one seed.
They're the number one seed. So the problem is not that Connecticut is not a good team, but in this game, for it to go to it went to double OT, if I remember correctly. Right?
Double OT.
So you just could see that the experience they have with Candace Parker just came through, and then unselfishness of Courtney Vandersloot was something that also gave them
18 assists. I mean,
that's a lot.
That's a record.
But I will say, I do think it's unsustainable what Chicago is doing. Because think about it, the fact that it was only 5-6 points that they lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
5, only by 5 points, and they needed to have a stellar performance all across the board. I don't know if it's sustainable from people who are in their late 30s. I'm just saying.
Look, interesting point though, and I'll counter that a little bit, because having said that, we're looking, and I was going to ask Kaunda this, sometimes history and what players have done and not done in the past can come back to haunt you. And, Connecticut has been very close to winning in the past, and they haven't gotten over that hurdle. And what happens sometimes is that gets into your head, and though you look at it and you say, maybe there's something wrong with us.
Injured. No, half of the time, I'm going to interject in here, and I'm going to say they didn't have the entire squad. Let's first of all.
But the reality is, it's a bit like when they talk about Chris Paul in the playoffs, right? There's always, you're just waiting for that injury to happen. Bad luck, all of these things. And sometimes that kind of gets into your head. And sports people are very superstitious. So when you get that 1-0 down, and then you're like, okay, now we've got to fight back again. Do we have this in us? This could be an issue. Kaunda, do you think the Sun can just shake that off and then say, look,
wait, can I
the MVP? Yes.
Can I interject real quick? We mustn't forget that Alyssa Thomas, as much as she's back, she's not quite back, because you don't see Alyssa Thomas moving the way that she's moving. And that elbow injury that she chose not to take care of is also a factor. You saw when she was taking that free throw that it was just not falling.
She's not 100.
So she's really not 100. So if you don't have Alyssa Thomas, as Alyssa Thomas, I think that the Connecticut Suns may struggle, because you cannot just rely on Jonquel Jones. You cannot just rely on Bonner. Yes,
they have. They're the number one seed without Alyssa Thomas, right?
Right.
So you've got Duana Bonner, you've got Breonna Jones, and she's definitely an important piece. And that's the thing for me, is that I look at this and I say, yes, she's not at 100%. But having said that, you play the team you're playing, right? And it's the same with just about anybody. Where Seattle didn't have Brad Stewart and came a whisker away from beating a let's call them, they're not quite fully fit, but a relatively full strength Phoenix Mercury, because Diana Taurasi was definitely hobbling, but she was there. So at what point do we then say, maybe Connecticut have to, we know they have to do more, but perhaps this is also a situation, Kaunda, where Connecticut might be in their own heads.
We're really acting like they lost by 20 points. This is ridiculous.
No, they lost by one game.
Look, Lee, a win is a win. That's why, people, you can't just say, that the Mercury just won by 1 point, whatever. Like, a win is a win. Whether you get blown out, it doesn't matter. The statistics still count. But I'm just saying, on the back of that, I think it could also be a mental thing, Cyrus. It could be a slight fatigue thing. It could be a mental thing. It could be underrating your opponent somewhat, because you assume, we came out top. So these guys can't really come in here and shake us up. But I think sometimes for the top seeds, it's good for them to lose a game early on. And then they know exactly where to make those adjustments and how to come back. Because if I was to put money down in this battle, whether they're not at 100%, I would put my money on the Sky. I mean, on the Sun. Sorry. I hope I don't lose my earnings here virtually. Virtually, that is. But I think it could be, like you said, Cyrus, history playing that mental game on you. But I think the way they've performed this season, I think they've got it in them to beat even that well-oiled Chicago machine. But I think, Connecticut, they have it. I think they're regrouping right now, watching tape and saying, look, we got to do this. But Alyssa or no,
I
Alyssa,
agree
we
with
got to
you.
do this.
I agree with you.
Game one is always a feel-out game, guys. Come on.
Yeah. Look, in a series, definitely, that's the thing. Yeah. But you'd rather be up than down, right? And I think that's the thing here, and nobody's counting them out completely. Though I am saying, especially in the WNBA, when it's the best of 5 series, when game 2 comes around, you best deliver, because you do not want to be in a 2-0 hole, because that's a deep place to be. And considering that, if you look at the other end of the spectrum, you've got Las Vegas, who are looking like they're really got their tails up for this, and that win against the Mercury is a really important one, because it said, this is what we've got. Liz Cambage is not at her absolute fittest because she's recovering from COVID, and she played 9 minutes or so in the game, but it didn't matter, because for me, the 6th Woman of the Year, Kelsey Plum, showed out. She really showed what she can do. So getting that 6-point win in game 1 was really interesting. Lethabo, I mean, do you think this is also a signal for Phoenix to look at themselves and say, we've got to do better, because game 2 could very much go the same way as game 1?
Yeah, I'm a bit concerned about Phoenix. I think the Liberty game for me was very, very concerning. You can't expect, when people were busy complimenting Sophie Cunningham, I was like, I know the jig is up, because Sophie Cunningham at least had
that ain't her.
2 of those games, and then that's about it. The rest of the time,
things happen or not happen.
She's not your go-to. So if Skylar's not having a good game, if Skylar's not shooting her free throws, if Brittany Griner is getting, because the double team between both the Seattle game and the Liberty game was having her ding dong all over the place, and then what? You left with Taurasi, or hobbling Taurasi, to rely on. And then you have a healthy Las Vegas Aces team. A fully healthy. Okay, granted, Liz Cambage.
Liz and obviously they've played the whole season without. Of course, I'm going to go
Angel
blank.
McCoughtry.
Angel McCoughtry, yeah. So they've got most of their big pieces there. The Chelsea Grays there.
Yeah, and they're hitting on all cylinders. They don't look like they're on the struggle bus.
No,
I don't know,
they're not
man.
at all.
Phoenix and them scoring jobs, bro.
It's you can't have those at the line, and Skylar's unfortunately, showed that she's had an unfortunate propensity for missing big time free throws.
Goodness gracious! If Peggy shoots one more 3, I swear to God, I'll blow myself up. Wow.
See, we're back here to blowing
up. My gal.
Well, she does mean this figuratively.
Let's not go that far.
Yes. Nthabiseng, this is your team. You love the Aces. Do you think that they've got this series, even though it's just 1 win?
I have confidence in the Aces. I won't even lie. I have confidence in them, and I think as time progresses, with Liz Cambage getting her fitness back and being her proper self, I think they're a competing team. I think we'll see them in the finals again. I said this in the beginning of the season, and I'm going to continue saying that we will see Las Vegas Aces in the finals.
Yeah, I must say I do agree with you. I wish it was my Storm. But Kaunda, when we look at the Aces, this is a team who I think they feel hurt that they got swept in last year's finals.
Definitely.
Right? And they want to right that wrong. And I think the craziness of it is that you've got the Aces on the one side who have a point to prove, and Connecticut on the other side, who feel exactly the same, that they're the number one seed. They haven't had a lot of success over the years. This will be the first championship for them. So, you know, do you think that Las Vegas perhaps are the more focused? I mean, they've got the former MVP in Asia Wilson on their team. And, you know, you've got Kelsey Plum really just leading the line from the bench. Liz Cambage. I mean, the pieces that they have there are just really superb. Chelsea Gray. Is this the Aces to lose?
Look, Cyrus, once again, the Aces, I think, find themselves in the same position as they were last season. They're very strong. They're very focused. First of all, if I look at the last night's game, first of all, what stood out for me, because I fancy myself being a big, which I actually am not, the grinder.
not in NBA terms.
Not in NBA terms. Maybe South Africa in Randburg, yes, I look like a big.
Yeah.
But nowhere else. The grinder Cambage matchup for me was so entertaining, even though Cambage didn't play that many minutes. But, you know, those smiles to each other, those, yeah, I got you. I could get you back. You know, I thought that was fantastic. The hush.
Yeah.
that was fantastic.
Fingers on lips.
Coming from both of them. You got to love that. But, Cyrus, what I saw from Raquana Williams, who was 26-4-2, and Kelsey Plum, who was 25-3-8, I was like, yo, these two women scored more than half of their team's points. This is fantastic. And I think that the Las Vegas Aces come into this postseason with a chip on the shoulders the size of a backboard. And they've got a point to prove. You don't get swept when you are doing so well and feel good about it. They're back. And I think they're kind of like, I'm going to show my age again. Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie Commando. Anything in their direction is going down. They do not care. It's like anyone who comes at us must go down. And I know that's the same mentality every team should have, but I think more so
they're focused.
The Las Vegas Aces, and on the other end, it is the Connecticut Sun. I think both of those teams have that same mentality going into this postseason. And I think my dream final right now, I would say, is the Sun meeting the Aces. I think that would be one heck of a matchup.
And I'll say something. I think we're all hoping that might be the final. Perhaps, you know, Chicago supporters and Phoenix supporters will hope the other, otherwise. But I think that what's interesting about that, though, is that for once, perhaps everything is playing in the Aces' favor. The teams that they're playing are not necessarily heavy on the three ball, and that plays hugely into Las Vegas's hands because they like to play the mid-range, they like to play, close to the bucket, and they've got a couple of shooters, but they're not shooting the lights out. So, this is really playing into their strengths, and I think this might be Las Vegas's year, but we'll see. We're going to have to leave it there, though, people. It's been an extra long bumper episode because we got a whole bunch covered, but thank you, everybody, for being on the show. We know you're going to see you again next time. Lee, Nthabiseng, Kaunda, thank you, everybody.
Aces.
And thank you all for watching. This has been WNBA Courtside. It's been incredible as always. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and keep watching the WNBA. It's one of the best basketball leagues in the world, bar none. Thank you.